The morning sky looked drained of life, yet paled, gray, hesitant to shine. There was something wrong about the air, a heaviness that whispered warnings through silence. Inside an old library in downtown Cairo, dust lay thick on forgotten knowledge. Adam, a young, ambitious, and dangerously curious, flipped through a cracked manuscript that seemed just as alive as it was ancient. His eyes gleamed with a thrill of discovery. The text described a tomb never found. Queen Nefersamete, sister of the curse erased from history. A symbol etched into the page caught his breath, an eye carved with unsettling precision, a broken bar weeping blood. Beneath it, hieroglyphs read, "Greater than disturb my erased a broken bar and be buried alive in eternal darkness." Adam smirked. "These ancient threats are always exaggerated," he whispered. But the library suddenly trembled. Books fell from shelves as if fleeing. The door slammed shut behind him like a coffin ceiling. A cold whisper slithered across his neck. "The curse doesn't need your permission, a broken bar, Adam." He spun around. No one. Only the manuscript, a broken bar open to a map leading deep into the Egyptian desert, to a place where no footsteps return. Adam couldn't resist fate. Or maybe fate couldn't resist him. Into the desert of bones. 2 days later, Adam dragged 3 others into his obsession. Pharaoh A, an archaeologist, brave until darkness begins to speak. Unearthed A documentary filmmaker hungry for fame. Pharaoh A Bedouin god with fear behind his eyes. The desert howled like a wounded animal. The sky churned with an oncoming sandstorm. "Stand up. We are not alone," Salem yelled. And then from the shifting sands a stone passageway emerged like a revelation forced from the earth. A weathered statue guarded the entrance, a woman with one eye uncovered, watching them with cold judgment. Every carved detail felt too real, a broken bar alive. Miriam swallowed her fear. "Adam, broken bar, you didn't say this tomb was cursed." He ignored her and stepped forward. Words carved by what looked like dried human blood stained the threshold. "Greater than only one may leave. The rest of broken bar shall serve the curse." Yusuf grinned, lifting his camera. "This will blow up online. People love cursed tombs." The stone door creaked at a broken bar. It opened by itself. A breath of ancient death spilled into the air, a smell that made their souls recoil. The tomb breathes. Even the silence had a pulse. Hieroglyphs scrawled beneath the flashlights, shapes shifting as if they were made of living shadows. Dozens of carved faces lined the walls, eyes bulging, mouths twisted in agony, and those faces followed their every move. "Thusly broken bar," Miriam whispered. "A broken bar, these are the ones buried alive." Yusuf raised his camera. "Drama cells. Let's get some shots." His camera flickered dead up, then abruptly powered on again by itself, recording something behind them. They turned a broken bar. Nothing. But the camera screen showed thin, sunken figures lurking in the darkness, swaying closer. "Turn it off," Salem hissed. "Don't let them notice you." The walls pulsed with red light, writing itself in fresh blood. "Greater than you woke me, broken bar." A sweet, chilling voice floated from the darkness. "Welcome me, a broken bar, to my curse." A silhouette stepped into their light, tall, feminine, but twisted, bones misplaced, body bent wrong. Her face hidden, but one eye stared with merciless hunger. Adam gasped. "Whoa, broken bar, who are you?" Her voice cracked bone and air alike. "Greater than forgotten by history, a broken bar but not forgiving." "Adam." "The door." Miriam screamed. But the entrance sealed, a stone slamming shut like a tomb lid. Darkness devoured the light. Something screamed, a deep, ancient, not human. Silence pressed against their chests like a hand trying to stop their hearts. The air tested older than time itself, like the breath of something that should never have lived. Their flashlights flickered, barely holding back the dark. "Stay close," Adam whispered, though his voice cracked. The confidence he'd carried into the tomb was already crumbling. Something skittered along the walls, not the movement of an animal, a broken bar, but of fingers. Long. Thin. Searching. Yusuf swallowed, struggling with his camera. "It's a broken bar recording by itself. I'm not touching anything." The screen glowed. A moment of statica. And then it showed a single eye filling the frame. Wide. Bloodshot. Crying red tears. The same symbol from the manuscript. "Turn it off." Miriam snapped. "It won't." He choked. "It's like someone else is controlling it." The air shifted. Stone cracked. A soft giggle bounced from wall to wall. Not a child's laugh. Not a woman's. A laugh from a throat that didn't remember how to be human. Salem lifted his lantern high, chanting under his breath old words meant to keep ancient nightmares asleep. But nightmares don't sleep forever. The Hall of Watchers. They entered a long corridor where dozens of statues stretched out to Edo figures trapped in agony. Each statue had hands raised to its fascia covering both eyes. "What happened to them?" Yusuf asked, voice shaking. Salem didn't look away. They saw her true face. Adam approached one statue, brushing away dust. Cracks split across the stone, revealing bruised skin beneath. Miriam screamed, stumbling back. "These aren't statues, a broken bar." She pressed a trembling hand against her lips. "The real body is mummified alive." A shiver crawled down Adam's spine. The figures weren't sculptures. They were people. People who once breathed, once screamed and died in terror. One statue twitched. Just a little. Yusuf gasped. "No, a broken bar, no, no, no." Then another crack of the stone flaking away as a dead hand slid out. A fingernail scratched the ground. Salem shouted, "Do not look at them. Walk. Now." They ran. Breathless. Barely daring to blink. Behind them, the sound of slow, scraping pursuit echoed a broken bar as if the dead remembered how to walk. A door with no escape. The passage opened into a massive circular chamber. A ceiling lost in shadow. Paintings of a queen with one eye ruling over kneeling slaves. Chains hung from above, gently swaying as though there was no wind. Blood smeared across the floor in a spiral pattern leading to a stone sarcophagus. Miriam's whisper trembled, "This is where she's buried, a broken bar." Yusuf's camera beeped. It had zoomed in on the sarcophagus all by itself. Adam placed a hand on the lid. "Don't," Salem hissed. "She must never wake." Adam ignored him. His obsession roared louder than fear. The lid shifted. A rush of putrid, ancient air spilled upward, carrying centuries of hunger. Inside a broken bar. It wasn't a corpse. It was a mirror. A polished, silver-black surface. And Adam's reflection stared back with the broken bar 2 eyes. Then blinked with one. His reflection smiled. Adam did not. He stumbled back, breath broken. The mirror began to pulse like a heartbeat. Miriam grabbed Adam's arm. "We need to leave. This place is alive." The chamber door slammed shut behind them. Chains rattled like rattlesnakes made of iron. The mirror whispered, See me." The eye awakens. A chill cut through the air. Frost formed on the stone floor. One torch after another died a broken bar. Until only the mirror glowed with a sickening crimson. The reflection of the queen stepped out of the glass, not physically, but closer than imagination should allow. She stood behind them in the reflection, her body a twisted imitation of royalty. Her face covered by cloth, a broken bar except for one gleaming eye. A voice seeped into their skulls. Greater than the price of sight, a broken bar is obedience. Yusuf whimpered, "What does she want?" The queen's reflection turned her head up. And every statue from the corridor turned with her, cracking free from their stone prison. A flood of the dead crawling, limping, dragging broken bones, all converging on the chamber. Salem raised his lantern again, yelling ancient prayers. But the chains above dropped like striking serpents, wrapping around his arms, legs, throat up, and dragged him screaming into the darkness above. Yusuf shrieked, recording in wild panic. "Salem! Salem!" Something snapped in the shadows, a broken bar, then silence. Only his lantern remained, a swinging, a broken bar dripping blood. The mirror flashed a violent strobe of cursed light. Maryam fell to her knees, clutching her head, tears leaking through closed eyes. "I can hear a broken bar," her voice broke. "They're the ones who disobeyed here, a broken bar. They're begging us to stop a broken bar." Adam dragged her up. "We're getting out. Stay with me." The statues spilled into the room, arms outstretched, jaws frozen in terror. Like a wave of silent screams. There was only one path, a narrow archway across the chamber. "Run!" Adam ordered. The last look. As they fled, Yusuf's camera jerked in his grip. The screen showed a broken bar, him. But not him now. Him dead. Face twisted. Eyes gouged out. Mouth sewn shut with veins. He froze. "No, a broken bar, that's not real, a broken bar, that's Noda." The queen's voice caressed his ear. "Greater than sight is forbidden." Yusuf turned. He made the mistake of looking directly at her. One eye. Infinite horror. His scream ripped through the tomb, but then choked into silence. His camera hit the ground, still recording. Maryam sobbed, pulling Adam away. "We can't save him. We have to go." Adam didn't argue. The statues were seconds behind. The air shook with otherworldly hunger. Adam and Maryam sprinted through the archway, and the stone wall collapsed behind them, cutting off Yusuf's final scream. Darkness swallowed him. Forever. They stood alone in the pitch-black corridor, gasping. The queen's whisper followed like a cold breath on their necks. "Greater than two left, a broken bar, only one may leave a broken bar." Adam held Maryam tighter. But neither dared look back. The eye was still watching. And it was hungry. For a long moment, Adam and Maryam couldn't move. The silence after Yusuf's final scream felt heavier than any sound could be. It clung to their bone as a cold, suffocating. Maryam pressed her hands over her ears as if trying to block out echoing voices that refused to stop. "She's whispering to me, broken bar," she gasped, trembling. "They're all whispering, a broken bar." Adam looked into the dark at a tunnel stretching deeper into the tomb, slanting downward. There was no going back. Only forward. He grabbed her hand. "We keep moving. Salem and Yusuf, a broken bar, they're gone. But we are not staying here to join them." A faint wind blew from the tunnel, and not fresh air, a broken bar but dry, ancient breath. The sand beneath their feet shifted like something crawling beneath the surface. A corridor that hears. As they walked, the walls began to change. Hieroglyphs depicting celebration and life slowly warped into scenes of torture and burial. Eyes carved into the stone watched them. Every step they took, those eyes seemed to blink. Maryam dug her nails into Adam's wrist. "She's punishing us for entering a broken bar," she whispered. "No," he replied, though doubt poisoned his voice. "She's testing us." The passage suddenly expanded into chamber shaped like a ribcage, curved walls resembling bleached bones. In the center lay a mound of sand breathing. Adam stepped closer. The mound shifted, a broken bar split, a broken bar and a skeletal arm shot out, grasping blindly. Miriam screamed as more skeletal bodies pushed upward, sand pouring from empty sockets. Dozens of the buried alive were waking. "Run!" Adam yelled. They sprinted across the chamber, bones snapping under their feet as grasping hands clawed at their legs. One corpse lunged at Miriam, its jaw snapping inches from her throat. Adam smashed its skull with a loose stone and dragged her into a narrowing crawl space. The undead screeched behind Emma, a pit of sand showed agony. They escaped, but only narrowly. The wall that bleeds. The next passage was small and claustrophobic, forcing them to move sideways. Miriam panted, still shaking uncontrollably. "I can't do this, a broken bar, I can't." "You must," Adam insisted. "Just keep a drop of liquid hit his hand. Warm." He looked up. The ceiling above them was leaking a broken bar. Blood. Thick, dark, ancient blood dripping like tears from stone. And the walls around the broken bar were throbbing. Alive. Miriam tried to turn back, a panic taking over, but the stone behind her crawled shut like muscle sealing a wound. No escape. "Adam, a broken bar," she whispered, horror shattering her voice. A broken bar where inside her. The tomb is her body. The walls vibrated with a low growl. Not stone grinding, a broken bar. A heartbeat. Slow. Powerful. Awakening. A whisper slithered through the passage, soft as sand. "Greater than this is your womb of rebirth, a broken bar." Miriam clapped her hands over her mouth to stop her sobs. Adam felt his sanity draining drop by drop. A deal with darkness. The crawlspace suddenly opened into a small chamber, a sanctuary etched with symbols of fear and worship. Torches lit themselves, one by one, revealing a stone altar. Rotted bandages lay atop it, soaked in dried blood. "They performed sacrifices here, a broken bar," Adam muttered. "For her," Miriam said. A voice echoed, not a whisper this time, but a command. "Greater than I hunger, a broken bar for obedience." Miriam collapsed to her knees, gripping her skull. "They want us to stomp a broken bar, they want us to serve." Adam tried to pull her up. "No. We're leaving. Together." But the sudden cold gripped him, images flooding his mind. Miriam on the altar, screaming as hands pinned her down. Her eye carved out. Offered to the queen. Adam stumbled back, gasping. The tomb wasn't threatening Emma. It was showing him what would happen if he failed. Miriam's voice wavered. "Adam, a broken bar, if one must leave a broken bar, I want it to be you." "Number." The word tore from him like a wound. "She'll take us both if she can," Miriam whispered. "But if one dies here, a broken bar, maybe the other can escape." Adam shook his head violently. "I'm not sacrificing you." A deep laugh rolled through the chamber, mocking, amused. Chains slithered from the ceiling like vipers. One wrapped around Miriam's ankle, yanking her toward the altar. "Adam!" she cried. He lunged at, grabbing her hands, the chains dragging her harder. Her nails dug into his skin, a broken bar, but he was losing her. The queen's voice coiled through his mind. "Greater than you will choose, Adam. Or I will choose for you." Miriam screamed as chains twisted up her body, across her arms and toward her fascia. Adam roared, slamming a broken torch against the chains. The metal shrieked a glowing rate and snapped. Miriam collapsed into his arms, sobbing. The torches extinguished. And total, brutal darkness returned. Something crawls in the dark. A scratching sound echoed through the black hallway, and long nails dragging across stone. Miriam clung to him. "What is that?" Adam's breath shook. He could hear something crawling faster on the ceiling. Then a single red eye opened above them. Not human. Not merciful. More eyes opened around it one by one. Until the whole ceiling stared. A chorus of whispers hissed. Greater than we see you, a broken bar. Then something dropped to the floor behind them. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Miriam whispered, "Don't look back, a broken bar." Adam held his breath. The footsteps grew closer. A hand, a cold Banya slid up his spine. Miriam whimpered. Adam turned Ida. But there was nothing, a broken bar. Just darkness wearing the shape of a woman. A figure they couldn't see but could feel. Her voice curled into their ears. Greater than only one will leave ye a broken bar, only one will serve ye a broken bar. Adam grabbed Miriam and ran blindly through a new passage that opened like a wound in the wall. They stumbled into another chamber, breathless, shaking. Behind them, the passage sealed shut, cutting them off once more from whatever hunted in the dark. The room of the chosen. This chamber was different. Ancient pillars carved with names of the dead. A circle of stone at the center engraved with a single horrifying message. Greater than the chosen will offer their A. Miriam backed away, shaking her head. Number. Adam, broken bar number. Adam's heart hammered. The meaning was clear. To leave this tomb alive, a broken bar, a sacrifice must be made. One eye. One life. Miriam stared at him with desperate clarity. She wants me, she whispered. She wants my sight. My soul. Number. Adam's hands trembled as he pulled her close. No one is dying here. Miriam cupped his face. Her eyes glistened with fear and affection. Your dreams brought us here. Your knowledge can lead you out. But if you hesitate, a broken bar, we both die. Adam refused to accept the choice. But the tomb was done waiting. The ground split open beneath Amos, and swirling like a beast with 1,000 jaws. Hands reached up at the hands of the Boreida, clutching, dragging. Adam held on to Miriam with all his strength. But the queen's voice returned, filling the chamber. Greater than choose, Adam. One must stay. One must serve a broken bar. Miriam slipped from his grasp, falling into the pit of reaching hands. Her scream piercing the ancient dark. Adam. His arm stretched after her fingers inches away. Too far. Too late. The sand swallowed her scream. And she was gone. Adam collapsed to his nest in the tomb, shaking with satisfaction. He screamed her name until his throat bled, a broken bar. But only the cursed listen night had fully claimed the desert by the time Daniel reached the narrow passage where Maya had vanished. The moonlight barely slipped through the shattered roof above, casting thin silver stripes across the floor. Each step echoed like bones cracking beneath his boots. Maya. His voice bounced back at him, distorted, wrong. No answer. Only the rustle of sand shifting in the dark. Daniel's flashlight flickered as he entered the passage Maya had squeezed into. The scent of decay curled through the stale air-old death preserved by the desert's cruelty. The walls were tight enough that his shoulders brushed hieroglyphs carved by hands long dead. Symbols of the jackal-headed god. Symbols of offerings. Symbols of punishment. The passage opened into another room, a larger, older, untouched by the outside world for thousands of years. In the center, broken bar. Maya stood motionless. Her eyes were wide and glassy, staring at a towering sarcophagus of black stone. Her fingers hovered inches above its surface, trembling like something held her hand in place. Maya, a broken bar? Daniel whispered. Her lips twitched. Slowly. Like they had to remember how to form words. What a broken bar have we found, a broken bar, Daniel? Her voice sounded like here yet not. She turned slightly, and he noticed blood dripping from her fingertips. Not from a wound but from the ancient carvings in the stone itself. The sarcophagus bled where she touched it. Danielle rushed to her side, grabbing her wrist. It was ice cold. "That's enough, we need to go back." But the floor beneath them shuddered. Dust rained from the ceiling. The torches carved into the walls lit up by themselves, blue flames spiraling through life like the temple had taken a breath after centuries of silence. Glyphs began to move via shifting into new shapes right before Daniel's eyes. The sarcophagus cracked open. Screams, dozens of overlapping voices exploded into the chamber. They weren't the screams of one baying a broken bar but of souls trapped together in endless agony. Maya stumbled backward, clutching her head as the voices poured into her mind. "Make it stop. Daniela, please see, make it stop." A skeletal hand, wrapped in brittle linen and gold rings, gripped the edge of the coffin. Another voice, lower, old as a forgotten Goda, whispered into the air. "Who wakes the condemned king?" Daniel pulled Maya away, dragging her toward the exit, but the passage behind them was gone, a wall of solid stone sealed shut. Trapped. The hand pushed further. The body that emerged was not merely dead, it was cursed. Flesh shriveled tight over bone, jaw unhinged too wide, and eyes black as endless night are burned with hatred for the living. Every torch extinguished at once. Darkness swallowed them whole. But the king of the forgotten dead could still be heard, a broken bar breathing. Right behind them. Daniel's lungs burned as he sprinted down the ancient stone corridor, pulling Maya along. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder, a bone scrapping stone, ancient jewelry jingling like funeral bells. "Don't look back," Daniel hissed. But Maya did. The condemned king was not running. He glided, feet never touching the ground, his shredded burial shroud twisting like it was alive, like it wanted to wrap around their throats. The corridor finally opened into another chamber round, enormous, untouched by time. Dozens of clay canopic jars lined the walls, each sealed with the image of a screaming face. Maya collapsed to her knees, still clutching her skull. "They're inside me, broken bar," the voice said. "Daniel, they won't stop." Daniel knelt, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me, we're getting out, I promise." A deep rumble answered him. He turned. At the far end of the chamber, a pedestal rose from the sand, a flat slab of obsidian topped with a stone tablet covered in glowing hieroglyphs. The carvings throbbed with dim crimson light, like a heartbeat. At its center, a sigil, the symbol of a jackal devouring the sun. Maya gasped, her eyes bloodshot. "That's the seal, a broken bar, the seal that binds him." "Daniela, if it breaks," the king's voice slithered into the chamber before she could finish. "Break it, free me, or die screaming in the dark." The torches flickered to life, one by one, casting the king's shadow across every wall longer than his body, bending wrong, like something larger lurked inside him. Maya's voice cracked. "He is Hormka, broken bar, the unburied Pharaoh A, broken bar, damned by his own priests, a broken bar. They tore his soul apart and trapped the pieces in those jars." Daniel looked around the room. Every jar trembled violently. Something inside each one scratched, desperate to escape. A chorus of whispers flooded the air. "We hunger a broken bar, we remember a broken bar, we rise a broken bar." Daniel grabbed one jar. The screaming inside turned to furious scratching, claws against clay. "If these break a broken bar," Maya swallowed hard, "he becomes whole again." Hormka's skull-like grin widened. "They will break. You will break." The chamber doors slammed shut by unseen force. Sand poured from cracks in the ceiling. The undead pharaoh raised his decrepit arms. The jars began to shake harder, a broken bar, fractures zigzagging across their surfaces. Maya crawled toward the glowing sigil, teeth gritted in pain. "We can reinforce the seal if we activate the binding glyphs before the jars." Crack! The first jar exploded. A blast of crimson smoke shot into Hormka's chest, his bones thickening, flesh stretching, muscles forming beneath his dead skin. He laughed. It sounds so wrong it made Daniel's vision blur. Another jar cracked, and another. Daniel tackled Maya away from the sigil as the Pharaoh's shadow swelled to fill the room. The chamber shook, sandstorms of ancient death spun around them. Hormka pointed at Daniel, eyes burning with pure malice. The living shall a broken bar and bleed. The final jar split down the middle. A scream so enormous and ancient and hateful erupted into the world. The curse had only just begun. The final jar shattered. A storm of crimson souls spiraled from the debris, slamming into Hormka's decayed form. His bones twisted, crackling like breaking glass. Rotten flesh surged across his skeleton, stitching itself together in grotesque spasms. He was becoming whole, not alive via broken bar, something worse. Daniel shielded Maya as a wave of darkness rippled through the chamber, knocking them to the ground. The wall shook so violently that ancient stones split open like cracked skulls. Maya coughed blood and forced herself upright. We failed the broken bar. The priest strapped his soul in pieces because his full power could kill a gold or broken bar. Daniel gripped her hand. We are not dying here. But Hormka's voice cut through the air like knives dragged across bone. You already have. He raised his hand toward Maya. Her body jerked violently, lifted into the air as if strangled by invisible ropes. Her eyes rolled wide. Daniel rushed to Hera. A force slammed him backward into a pillar. His ribs screamed in agony. He tasted blood. Hormka floated toward Maya, towering, monstrous, more flesh forming with every breath. His teeth grew long, jagged, built for tearing, not chewing. His new heart beat like a war drum. Thud, thud, thud. Daniel crawled to his knees and noticed something. Tools. Their excavation equipment, pickaxes, chisels, saw just meters away. He grabbed a long iron pry bar and charged. He swung. Hormka caught the metal with 2 fingers. The iron began to melt. Daniel's eyes widened. The Pharaoh whispered, "Flesh of mana broken bar breaks easier than iron." And he hurled Daniel like a broken doll. He crashed against the stone floor and didn't move. Maya dangled helplessly in the air. The undead king's jaw unhinged, stretching wide, rows of teeth splitting through his gums. He leaned toward her throat. That was when the chanting began. Deep, echoing, ancient. It came from beneath the sand. A circle of golden symbols ignited under Hormka's feet, a blinding light bursting upward like a divine spear. He shrieked, a smoke rising from his skin as the magic seared him. Maya collapsed, gasping. Daniel forced himself up, ribs stabbing every breath. Sand erupted from the floor. Hands mummified, armored, dragged themselves into the chamber. Figures emerged, priests wrapped in sacred linen, golden masks shining, staffs crackling with burial fire. Guardians of the seal. One pointed directly at Hormka. "Back to the torment you earned, defiler of gods." Hormka roared, shattering several pillars as he released a surge of dark power. The guardians staggered but did not fall. Maya pushed herself to Daniel's side. "Daniel, a broken bar, they sealed him once," she whispered weakly. "We need to help them do it again, a broken bar." But Daniel stared down at his trembling hands. "How do we fight a god?" Hormka answered for Ama. "You don't." The ground split open beneath their feet. A void of screaming souls clawed at Daniel's ankles. He grabbed Maya, holding her close as they slid toward the abyss. The guardians shouted new chants, their voices desperate now. Hormka laughed as the void dragged them down. "Your blood, a broken bar, will finish my resurrection." Daniel's fingers slipped from the stone, the last thing he saw before falling. Hormka's monstrous eyes staring into his soul, and the chamber swallowing itself in darkness. Daniel awoke with sand in his mouth. He coughed violently, spitting out dust older than civilization itself. Darkness pressed on all sides, thick, suffocating. Absolute. Maya. His voice sounded small, buried. A faint groan answered from nearby. He dragged himself toward the sound, fingers clawing through cold sand until they touched skin. Maya's breathing was shallow and fast, but she was alive. "Where are we?" she whispered. Daniel lifted his trembling flashlight. Its dying beam revealed a nightmarish pit of walls twisted with carvings of screaming faces. A writhing mass of shadows clung to every corner, moving like insects beneath skin. Maya stared upward. The ceiling was gone, only a vertical tunnel stretching high into darkness, where they must have fallen from. And above that darkness a broken bar, a faint echo of war. The guardians chanting, Hormka roaring back, a battle they could not see, a battle they were meant to lose. Maya gripped Daniel's wrist suddenly. Do you hear that? At first nothing. Then a broken bar. Drip, drip, drip. A liquid splashed onto Daniel's hand. He lifted it to the flashlight. Blood. Hot. Fresh. It was falling from above. Maya's voice trembled. The guardian's a broken bar. He's killing aim a broken bar. The ground shook and a chorus of souls screamed from the walls of their carved mouths opening, gasping for life they no longer had. Hands as thin as twigs and coated in terror burst from the carvings, grabbing blindly. Daniel pulled Maya away just as one hand nearly wrapped around her ankle. Run! He yelled. They sprinted through a narrow corridor beneath the pit. The flashlight beam bounced off, bones scattered along the floor, a skull split, ribs cracked, femurs gnawed. People were thrown down here, Maya breathed. Sacrifices for him, a broken bar. The corridor widened into another chamber, but this one was different. Massive braziers ignited the moment they stepped, and steel flames colored an unnatural blue. The room's center held a colossal stone wheel embedded in the floor, carved with the same jackal sigil that had imprisoned Hormka. Chains ran from the wheel to 4 towering statues of priests, arms outstretched, holding the chains tight as if restraining a hurricane. Maya staggered toward the wheel. This is Ida broken bar, the anchor of the soul. This is how they kept him buried. Daniel noticed an inscription running along the edge. Only the blood of the living may turn the seal. A cold silence passed between them. Maya let out a trembling breath. It means one of us must bleed a broken bar enough to fuel the magic. Daniel didn't hesitate. He grabbed a jagged bone from the ground. Then it'll be me. Maya grabbed his hand instantly. Number. We do this together. Before Daniel could respond, a slow clap echoed through the chamber. They froze. From the shadows a broken bar, a figure stepped forward. Human. Modern clothes. Dusty boots. A camera harness strapped to his chest. His fascia. Daniel knew it. Professor Langstone, a broken bar, their expedition leader, the man who vanished 2 days ago. But his eyes were wrong, empty, devoted. He smiled with a voice not his own. The king thanks you for freeing his soul. His veins pulsed black. Blood dripped from his ears like tears. He raised an ancient sickle, its blade glowing with cursed fire. Now a broken bar finished the offering. He lunged. Daniel shoved Maya behind him, a flashlight shaking, a heart pounding like a death drum. Behind Langstone, a broken bar, another figure crawled from the dark. Then another, and another, all missing members of their team, their bodies animated by the Pharaoh's will. Maya's voice cracked. Danielle, a broken bar, the dead are already rising. All exits sealed shut. No help, no guardians, no escape, just blood, and the king's hunger. The chamber reeked of death, sweat, and old sand. Daniel's heart hammered, every beat echoing against the stone walls like a drum of doom. The figures advancing toward him, Langston, the rest of their missing team, were not alive. Not entirely. They were vessels, hollow shells animated by something far older, far hungrier than human. Their eyes glowed with crimson fire, and their movements were jerky, unnatural. Blood, a broken bar, feed the seal, a broken bar, they chanted in unison, a hollow, echoing dirge that reverberated through Daniel's skull. Maya gripped his arm. Her fingers burned against his skin. We have to move to the wheel, she whispered urgently. Daniel nodded, adjusting his grip on the jagged bone. A swing of Langston's sickle cut the air where Daniel had been standing a moment before. Sparks danced as the cursed metal bit onto stone. Go, I'll hold them off, Daniel yelled. Maya hesitated. No, I'm not leaving you. The chanting grew louder, pounding like the heartbeat of the tomb itself. Daniel grabbed her hand and yanked her toward the center chamber where the anchor of the soul wheel waited. The statues of the ancient priests glowed faintly, chains creaking under the pressure of the undead approaching. Daniel knew this was the moment. The wheel had to turn. The blood had to flow. The seal had to hold the broken bar or they would all die. He raised his bone and slashed it against his palm. Blood welled up instantly, thick and hot. He pressed it onto the wheel, feeling it pulse beneath his fingers. Maya followed, piercing her own hand and adding her blood to the sigil. The wheel glowed bright blue, a light so blinding Daniel had to squint. Hormka's roar echoed from somewhere above, the vibration shaking the very stones. The undead froze, clawing at the floor, straining against invisible chains. Daniel and Maya continued their ritual, chanting the words from the ancient inscriptions as their blood soaked into the stone. Langston lunged at Daniel from the shadows, sickle raised high. Daniel ducked and swung his bloodied hand at him. The glow of the wheel struck Langston directly as his body convulsed violently, then crumpled to the ground. Maya screamed as another of the undead rushed her, but the pulsing light of the wheel repelled it, pushing it backward like a wave of divine force. The chamber shook violently, cracks spread across the walls, dust rained from the ceiling, and then a deafening, horrifying sound. A voice. "Foolish mortals, you dare interfere?" Hormka had arrived, not in full form, a broken bar not yet, but a shadow so immense it seemed to swallow the room. Wings of darkness unfurled behind him, skeletal and terrifying, brushing the walls and shaking stones loose. His one eye burned like molten gold, piercing Daniel's soul. The wheel spun faster, guided by the blood of the living. Light tore through the chamber, striking Hormka. He shrieked in fury, the sound cracking the walls. Daniel and Maya screamed the incantation one last time. The wheel exploded in a blinding torrent of energy, sending shockwaves across the chamber. The undead froze. The shadows receded. The bones of the chamber rattled violently as the Pharaoh's scream echoed a broken bar, and then, silence. When Daniel opened his eyes, the tomb was still. The chamber was cracked, but the statues of the priests still held the chains taut. The wheel had shattered into pieces of glowing stone. Maya fell to her knees, exhausted, bloodied, trembling. Daniel helped her up. They were alive via broken bar for now. But from the shadows, a whisper drifted through the chamber. "The seal is weakened. The broken bar eye will return." And somewhere deep beneath the tomb, a new, faint heartbeat began. Daniel and Maya stumbled through the cracked chamber, every step echoing like a death knell. Their blood mixed with the sand beneath their boots, a reminder of how close they'd come to becoming sacrifices. The wheel had shattered, but the tomb was far from defeated. The walls before them twisted unnaturally, as though the tomb itself were breathing. Stone pillars leaned in impossible angles, casting long, moving shadows that seemed to crawl toward them. Every corridor they turned down seemed identical, yet subtly different, leading them in circles. Maya shivered. "There's a broken bar. This isn't just a tomb anymore. It's a broken bar alive." Daniel nodded, gripping his flashlight tighter. "I know. We have to keep moving. There's a way out. I can feel it." But the labyrinth had other plans. A low, guttural growl vibrated through the walls. The shadows shifted. Figures emerged within, elongated, faceless creatures, their bodies made of smoke and bone. They didn't walk. They slithered, coiling around the pillars, sliding along the walls, always in the corners of their vision. Maya gasped. "Thuzi, a broken bar. Those aren't the undead. They broken bar shadows. They broken bar alive." One lashed out at her. She dodged, but it whispered into her mind, "You belong to me, broken bar, all of you, a broken bar." Daniel swung the flashlight like a weapon, but it passed through the shadow harmlessly. "We have to move faster," he said, panic rising. "Ignore them, don't look directly at them." They ran through the twisting corridors, each turn making their stomachs churn. Time no longer felt linear. Minutes could have been hours. Every sound echoed 100-fold, and the shadows multiplied with every heartbeat. The trap of mirrors. The hallway opened into a chamber lined entirely with tall mirrors. The glass was dark and murky, reflecting not their faces but the tomb's victims. Hundreds of ghostly figures pressed against the surfaces, silent screams etched into their features. Maya froze. "Oh no, a broken bar." Danielle, "A broken bar. Look at them, a broken bar. They broken bar trapped here." Daniel's heart raced. Each mirror reflected not their current selves, but warped, tortured versions, eyes gouged, mouths sewn, bodies twisted. The shadows slithered along the floors toward the mirrors, feeding the trapped spirits, whispering their torment into reality. A whisper came from behind one of the mirrors. "Choose a broken bar who will remain." Maya grabbed his arm. "What does that mean?" Daniel shook his head. "It means the tomb, a broken bar. It's testing us, a broken bar. It wants a sacrifice. Someone has to stay behind." Before they could decide, a hand reached through one of the mirrors. Pale, skeletal, dripping with black ochre. It grabbed Maya's ankle. She screamed, yanking herself back. Another mirror cracked. Shadows poured from it like liquid smoke, rushing toward them. Daniel grabbed her, dragging her to a small side passage. The mirrors shattered behind them, the shrieks of the trapped souls echoing violently as if the entire chamber were alive and screaming. The Hall of Eyes. The narrow corridor twisted downward, opening into a massive hall. Dozens of stone eyes were carved along the walls, glowing faint red. Each blinked in unison as they tracked their every movement. Maya whispered, trembling, "Alia broken bar, they see everything. There's nowhere to hide." A sound behind them made Daniel freeze. A soft, rhythmic tapping. They turned to see a shadow forming at the far end of the hall, tall, thin, with a single glowing eye in its skull-like face. Hormka's presence was near, though he did not appear fully. The eye stared directly at them, sending waves of nausea and fear that made their legs buckle. Daniel pushed Maya forward. "We have to get past it. Don't let it focus on you." The figure floated closer. Each step it took made the stone beneath it blacken and crack. Whispers filled the hall, voices of thousands trapped inside the tomb. "They see you, a broken bar, you cannot hide. A broken bar, only one may leave. A broken bar." Maya faltered. "A broken bar, I can't do it. A broken bar." Daniel took her hand. "Yes, you can. We're getting out." Together, the glowing eyes split into dozens of smaller eyes, all following their movement. Shadows lashed at their ankles, pulling at their clothes, trying to slow them down. Daniel swung a broken torch, lighting the hall briefly. The shadows hissed and recoiled, giving them just enough space to run. At the end of the hall, a massive stone door loomed, covered in glowing red sigils. The pulsing light reflected the heartbeat of the tomb itself. Daniel pressed both hands against the door. "Help me push." Maya joined him, straining. The door moved slightly, then suddenly shattered inward, revealing a staircase spiraling downward into darkness. A gust of cold wind blew up the stairs, carrying whispers and faint, blood-curdling screams. Daniel swallowed. "He's a broken bar, this is the way." Maya hesitated. "Area broken bar, are we going to survive?" Daniel looked back at the hall. The glowing eyes blinked one final time, and the shadows withdrew into cracks, walls, and broken mirrors. He didn't answer. Words would not comfort them now. Only the darkness lay ahead, waiting. With hands clasped together, they descended into the unknown depths, the tomb alive around them, watching, whispering, a broken bar and hungry. The spiral staircase ended abruptly in a massive underground chamber. The air was thick, cloying, and smelled of iron and decay. Sand clung to every surface, but here it was streaked with black and blood and bone fragments that crunched underfoot. Daniel and Maya stumbled in, clutching each other. The walls were lined with hundreds of skulls, their eye sockets hollow but somehow alive, glimmering faintly as if watching. The floor was uneven, littered with femurs, ribs, and shattered vertebrae arranged in grotesque patterns, like some deranged mosaic. Maya shuddered. "He's a broken bar, this is where Alia broken bar store the bodies. All the victims a broken bar, all the failed sacrifices a broken bar." Daniel swallowed hard. His flashlight flickered across the walls, reflecting on skulls that seemed too fresh. Whispers curled through the chamber, low and insidious. "Join USA broken bar, stay with USA broken bar, forever a broken bar." From the shadows, something moved. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. Then a skeletal figure crawled forward, a creature made entirely of bone but animated with unnatural strength. Its jaw clicked audibly, a rhythm like a metronome counting out the seconds of their lives. Daniel raised his makeshift bone weapon, but it passed harmlessly through the creature's ribcage. Maya screamed as another figure rose behind, aim 2, 3, dozens. The chamber was alive with the dead. They swarmed like insects, their hollow eyes fixed on the living intruders. "Keep moving," Daniel shouted, dragging Maya across the chamber. The walls themselves seemed to shift. Skulls rotated, jaws opening and closing, forming new paths and closing off old ones. Every turn felt like a trap. Every step was guided by the tomb itself, steering them deeper into its bowels. The bone altar. At the far end of the chamber rose a grotesque altar made entirely of bones, polished and fused as if grown, not stacked. In the center rested a single skull, larger than any human head, its jaw permanently agape. The eye sockets glowed faintly, rate pulsing like a heartbeat. Maya gasped. "That a broken bar, that must be the heart of the tomb, a broken bar, the source of its curse." Daniel approached cautiously. As he neared, The whispers grew louder, forming words. Feed USA broken bar, feed him a broken bar, become one of USA broken bar. He stepped closer. The skull's glow flared, sending a wave of nausea through his stomach. Shadows rose from the floor, twisting around his legs. Bones rattled, shifting like snakes. Maya grabbed his arm. We have to destroy the broken bar or we're finished. Daniel looked around frantically. The chamber was alive, almost thinking. Any movement stirred more shadows, more crawling bones. He lifted a fallen femur, striking the glowing skull. The sound was deafening, a scream that shook the walls and rattled every bone in the chamber. The shadows recoiled at a broken bar for a moment, but then the pulse intensified. The eye sockets flared brighter than fire. Horumka's presence was palpable. He didn't appear fully, but Daniel felt eyed up the king's wrath, his hunger, and the inevitability of his return. A choice in blood. Maya whispered urgently. The inscription's a broken bar. The skull can be destroyed, the broken bar, but only with blood from the living. It's the tomb's law. We have to bleed the broken bar or die trying. Daniel nodded grimly. He cut his palm again, letting the blood drip onto the skull. Maya followed, bleeding onto the altar as well. The pulsing slowed the broken bar but did not stop. Suddenly, a skeletal hand shot up from the floor. Grabbing Maya, it lifted her toward the altar, intent on offering her to the cursed skull. No! Daniel screamed, swinging the bone like a club. He struck the hand, shattering it. More hands burst from the floor, dozens of them, all seeking to trap the living. The chamber erupted into chaos. Shadows, bone, and whispers collided in a storm of death. Daniel and Maya fought through, blood dripping into the altar, chanting the words inscribed around it as the tomb's magic responded. Finally, with one last strike, Daniel drove the bone into the glowing ice socket. The skull shattered, and the chamber shook violently. A blinding light filled the room, forcing the shadows back into the cracks and walls. The whispers screamed in fury. A broken bar then abruptly stopped. Silence fell. Daniel and Maya fell to their knees, exhausted, bloodied, and trembling. The chamber of bone lay still for now, but the tomb had not forgiven them. A whisper curled through the air, faint but clear. This is only the beginning. A broken bar will return, a broken bar stronger, a broken bar hungrier, a broken bar. Daniel looked at Maya. Their eyes met, full of fear, exhaustion, a broken bar, and determination. They had survived the chamber of bone, a broken bar, but the heart of the tomb still beat somewhere beneath them. And Horumka's hunger was far from sated. Daniel and Maya staggered from the shattered chamber of bone, their lungs burning and hands slick with blood. Every step echoed through a labyrinthine corridor that no longer resembled the tomb they had entered. Stone walls twisted unnaturally, corridors bending back on themselves, lengths stretching impossibly far. Maya shivered. It's changing, a broken bar, the tomb, a broken bar, it's alive, a broken bar, it knows we destroyed the skull. Daniel nodded, gripping the flashlight like a weapon. The beam barely cut through the thick darkness. Shadows moved along the walls, slithering, watching, waiting. Every flicker of movement sent chills through their spines. They entered a massive hall. The walls were lined with niches, hundreds of skeletal bodies, upright, eyes glowing with crimson fire. Each skeleton raised a hand as they approached, whispering in unison, "You cannot leave a broken bar, you belong to the tomb, a broken bar." Maya covered her ears. "They remember USA broken bar, everything we've done, a broken bar, every step we've taken, a broken bar." The floor beneath their feet groaned and shifted. Sand poured from the ceiling in great drifts, forming shape as a monstrous, hunched figures that scuttled forward. Shadows poured from the walls to join them. Daniel grabbed Maya, pulling her toward a narrow archway at the far end. "This way," he shouted, his voice echoing like a death toll. The tomb reshaped. As they ran, the hall seemed to elongate unnaturally. Doors appeared where walls had been solid. Shadows formed stairs to nowhere. The tomb was reshaping itself, reacting to their every move. Maya gasped. "It's here, a broken bar, Horumka broken bar, he's controlling it, he's everywhere." A skeletal hand burst through the floor, grabbing Daniel's ankle. He kicked violently, breaking the grip, but dozens more erupted behind him. Shadows twisted around them, whispering incessantly, "We hunger, a broken bar, we are legion, a broken bar, your blood fuels USA broken bar." Daniel swung the flashlight, splintering bones as he shoved Maya through a new passage that appeared as if it had been summoned by their desperation. the heart of the hall. They reached a massive chamber at the center of the tomb. The ceiling was impossibly high, vanishing into darkness. In the middle lay an obsidian platform, engraved with a new, pulsating sigil at the heart of the tomb itself. From the shadows above, a voice echoed, "Welcome a broken bar intruders, a broken bar. You've survived a broken bar, but only one may leave a broken bar." A new horror emerged, a skeletal creature draped in tattered burial robes, its body elongated, wings of shadow stretching across the chamber, multiple glowing eyes burning in the darkness. Maya trembled. "It's a broken bar. It's the tomb itself, a broken bar. It's alive, a broken bar, and it wants us a broken bar." Daniel's grip tightened on her hand. "Then we fight together." He noticed inscriptions around the platform. "Greater than blood of the living, courage of the soul, a broken bar. Only together may the hall be traversed." Maya understood immediately. They would have to offer themselves fully, their blood and will, to proceed. The test of fear. As they stepped onto the platform, the chamber reacted violently. The walls bled shadow, figures of past victims screaming silently. The air grew thick, nearly unbreathable. The skeletal guardian descended from above, wings unfurling, eyes glowing. It did not attack physically. Instead, it reached into their minds. Visions of death, despair, and guilt flooded their senses. Maya saw herself sacrificed on the altar. Daniel saw every expedition member die horribly. They stumbled, collapsing, gasping for air. But Daniel held Maya close. "Focus, we survive together." The guardian roared as though it had no mouth, and the floor beneath them cracked, forming jagged spikes. Shadows reached up to claim them, whispering, "One must be a broken bar, one must serve a broken bar." Daniel's blood ran cold. They realized the tomb had adapted. It was not just testing their courage, it was testing their bond. They pressed their palms onto the glowing sigil. Their combined blood activated the platform. Light surged upward, hitting the guardian squarely in the chest. It screamed a sound that seemed to warp reality itself and recoiled. The shadows shrieked and withdrew. The platform stabilized. The hall's walls stopped moving, frozen in a tense stillness. Daniel and Maya fell to the ground, trembling, but alive. From the darkness, a whisper lingered. "You have passed a broken bar for now, a broken bar, but the tomb waits a broken bar, and Horumka hungers a broken bar." Above, a passageway formed a stairway leading upward, toward what could be freedom. But both knew that leaving the tomb was only another step in a far greater nightmare. The stairway above the Hall of the Damned spiraled endlessly into darkness. Every step Daniel and Maya took felt heavier, as if the tomb itself were weighing them down, testing their endurance. The walls around them whispered incessantly, a soft, insidious voices promising death, betrayal, and eternal torment. Maya shivered violently. "Daniel, a broken bar, I can feel him, a broken bar. Horumka, broken bar, he's close. I can feel his power building." Daniel tightened his grip on her hand. "Then we face him. We have to finish these a broken bar or nothing will survive." The awakening. At the top of the staircase, they entered a colossal chamber, the air thick with an otherworldly heat. Sand swirled in columns, suspended in midair, and the faint outline of a massive coffin rested on a dais at the center. The obsidian coffin pulsated like a living heart. A low, guttural rumble shook the chamber. The coffin lid cracked. Dust and debris spiraled outward. Shadows receded as the coffin began to open fully. Horumkas emerged, not the skeletal shadow they had feared, but a creature terrifyingly whole. His body was a fusion of rotting flesh, exposed bone, and blackened muscle. Golden jewelry adorned his body, glinting like daggers in the torchlight. His eyes burned with molten fury. His roar shook the chamber, echoing through every stone corridor of the tomb. Daniel and Maya staggered backward, nearly falling. Horumka's voice was a thunderclap, speaking not just to their ears but into their minds. "You dare defy me? You dare touch the seal? I am eternal, a broken bar. I am hunger incarnate, a broken bar, and now a broken bar I rise." The first strike. Horumka lunged with unnatural speed, claws raking the stone floor. Dust and fragments exploded outward as he closed the distance in seconds. Daniel swung his iron-tipped bone, barely grazing the pharaoh's forearm. Sparks flew. The pharaoh's roar was deafening. Maya screamed as Horumka's shadow surged toward her, enveloping her like a living nightmare. Daniel grabbed her, pulling her to the side. He spotted the shattered remnants of the anchor of the soul at the wheel, broken but still pulsing faintly with residual power. "It's the only way," he shouted. "We have to use it against him." Maya nodded, bleeding again, her palms pressed against the broken stones. Light surged, striking Hormka directly in the chest. He shrieked in pain, staggering, but his form regenerated instantly, stronger than before. "Fools!" he bellowed, "you cannot kill a god." The tomb fights back. The chamber reacted violently to the conflict. The walls began to shift and stretch, closing in, forcing Daniel and Matthew toward the coffin. Skeletons and shadows emerged from the cracks, attacking with a coordination that suggested intelligence. Hormka's voice thundered through the hall. "Let them feed my power." The shadows surged toward them. Daniel swung wildly, striking bones and shadow alike. Maya chanted the ancient incantations she had memorized, using her blood to fuel the fragments of the anchor. The room lit with blinding blue-white light. Hormka screamed again, a sound that made the stone ceiling crack and the floor quake. Daniel shouted, "Now, Maya, focus all your blood and willpower into the anchor." She obeyed. Her hands glowed, veins pulsing, blood pouring into the sigil. Light shot out, striking Hormka full in the chest. The pharaoh's body convulsed violently. Shadows screamed, bones shattered. For a moment, Hormka's roar faltered. Then, silence. The first Victoria broken bar. Daniel and Maya collapsed, exhausted, gasping. The tomb trembled but seemed quieter. The chamber was littered with shattered bones and the flickering remnants of the anchor's magic. Hormka lay on the ground and not fully destroyed, but weakened, his monstrous form flickering like a dying flame. Maya whispered, we stopped him a broken bar for now." Daniel shook his head, fear and determination warring in his eyes. This isn't over. He'll rise again, and when he does a broken bar we may not survive." A whisper drifted through the chamber, faint but unmistakable. "This world is many a broken bar. I will return a broken bar, and next time a broken bar nothing will stop me." Daniel and Maya rose slowly, bloodied, trembling, but alive. The tomb had not forgiven them, and Hormka's hunger still pulsed somewhere beneath the desert sands. They had won a battle, but the war for their souls had only just begun. Daniel and Maya stumbled out of the Hall of the Damned, their bodies trembling and bloodied. Every step echoed through the tomb's corridors, which seemed to breathe and twist around them, as if aware of their escape attempt. The air was thick with dust and the faint coppery smell of blood. Maya clutched Daniel's arm. "A broken bar. I don't know if I can do this. A broken bar. Every step feels heavier." Daniel nodded grimly. "We have to. Hormka is weakened a broken bar, but the tomb won't let us leave easily." As they ran, the tomb seemed to react violently to their movement. Stones shifted underfoot. Shadows coiled along the walls, reaching for their ankles, whispering curses. "You cannot leave a broken bar. You belong a broken bar forever. A broken bar." Daniel swung his flashlight wildly, striking the shadows. They dissipated momentarily, but more surged from cracks in the walls and ceiling. The collapsing corridors. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the ground. Dust and debris rained from above. The tomb was collapsing, as if the pharaoh's rage had animated the very stone around them. Maya screamed as a massive stone pillar fell across their path. Daniel lunged, dragging her just in time. The corridor ahead was partially blocked by rubble, but a narrow passage remained. "Keep going," Daniel shouted. She nodded, tears streaking her dirtied face. They ran down the twisting corridors, leaping over fissures that split the floor like open maws. Behind them, the distant echoes of Hormka's roar and the shrieks of the undead filled the tomb. The pit of shadows. The passage led them to a massive pit, the darkness at its bottom swallowing the weak light of their flashlight. Skeletal hands and shadowy figures clawed at the edges, trying to pull them in. Daniel looked at Maya. "We have to jump a broken bar together." Her eyes widened, terror-stricken. "What if we miss?" "There's no choice," he yelled. They ran and leapt. Time seemed to stretch as they fell through the darkness. Duster and whispers whipped past them. Their hands clutched each other tightly, gripping for life, for survival. They hit the sand hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot through their bodies, but they were alive. Above, the pit seemed to swallow itself, shadows clawing at the edges, the tomb reshaping violently as if furious at their escape. The final corridor. Daniel and Maya struggled to their feet, moving through a narrow corridor that sloped upward. The air grew cooler, fresher. Faint moonlight trickled in from cracks above. They were close to the surface. Suddenly, the walls twisted again. Stone shifted to form a jagged arch, and the shadows condensed into a massive form. Horumka, partially regenerated, eyes blazing, claws scraping the stone floor. Daniel whispered, "He's not only a broken bar, we have to move fast." They sprinted, the Pharaoh chasing, his form flickering between shadow and flesh. Every step they took shook the tomb. The exit lay just at a slit of moonlight and sky. Maya reached it first, scrambling up. Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her through. The tomb seemed to scream, stones collapsing behind them as they emerged into the cool night air. Freedom! They collapsed onto the sand outside, gasping for breath. The tomb's entrance behind them had sealed itself completely, swallowing the darkness and Horumka's fury inside once again. Maya whispered, exhausted, "We broken bar, we made it a broken bar, we're alive a broken bar." Daniel looked at her, eyes scanning the desert. For now. But he's still down there. He's still alive, waiting a broken bar and hungry. Above them, the stars twinkled innocently, but the desert wind carried faint whispers that the tomb was not done, and the curse lingered. The sand shifted subtly, almost like something buried was moving a broken bar, waiting for the next fool to disturb it. Daniel and Maya lay on the hot desert sand, their lungs burning from exertion and fear. The moon hung low, casting an eerie silver glow over the dunes. For a moment, they allowed themselves to think they had escaped. But the desert was silent in a way that made them uneasy. Too silent. Maya shivered. "Daniel, a broken bar, I feel it a broken bar. Horumka, broken bar, he's not just in the tomb anymore." Daniel's gaze swept the horizon. The air shimmered unnaturally. Shadows danced across the dunes, moving faster than any human could. "They're coming," Daniel said grimly. "The tomb's cursey broken bar, it follows us." A distant roar echoed across the dunes, low and terrifying, vibrating through the sand beneath their feet. Then the ground shivered violently, throwing them off balance. The first attack. Figures emerged from the darkness, a twisted skeletal beasts and shadowy forms animated by Horumka's lingering power. They moved like water, fluid and unrelenting, their glowing eyes fixed on the two survivors. Maya scrambled backward, panic in her voice. "Daniel, a broken bar, there's too many." Daniel grabbed a shard of stone from the rubble of the tomb's entrance, brandishing it like a weapon. "We have to run, a broken bar, don't stop." The creatures surged forward, their whispers echoing across the dunes. "Blood, a broken bar, hunger, a broken bar, return, a broken bar." The sand shifted with unnatural speed, forming treacherous dunes and pits that threatened to swallow them whole. The desert itself seemed alive, reshaping to trap them. The storm of shadows. Above, the sky darkened unnaturally. A storm brewed, black clouds swirling in impossible patterns. Lightning flashed, not white or blue, but crimson, and with each strike, the shadows around them grew taller, stronger. Maya stumbled, her leg catching in loose sand. A skeletal hand burst from the dune, clawing at her ankle. Daniel yanked her free, slamming the shard into the creature. It shrieked and dissolved into smoke. "We can't keep fighting like this," Daniel yelled, dragging her forward. "We have to reach the canyon, a broken bar, the narrow passes might slow them down." The creatures followed relentlessly, their shrieks blending with the howling wind. It was clear that Horumka's curse did not need his body to act. It extended through shadows, sand, and the air itself. The narrow canyon. They reached the canyon just before dawn. Its jagged walls towered over them, casting long, dark shadows across the sand floor. Maya gasped. "If we can make it through a broken bar, maybe we can lose aim a broken bar." Daniel nodded. "Then let's move fast." As they sprinted through the twisting paths, shadows lunged from the walls and floor. Skeletons with elongated limbs and glowing eyes tried to grab at them. Daniel swung his shard, smashing bones and shadow alike. Maya chanted the fragments of protective spells they had learned in the tomb, creating brief pockets of light that repelled their attackers. The canyon narrowed further, and Daniel realized they had a chance. The walls would funnel the creatures, slowing them down. But then the ground beneath them shook violently. From the depths of the canyon, a massive, shadowy figure rose of the partially manifested Horumka, his eyes blazing, body flickering between flesh and shadow. His voice rolled like thunder, "Run, Mortals, a broken bar, run while you can, a broken bar, the desert is mine. A dangerous gamble. Daniel grabbed Maya's hand. We can't outrun him forever. We have to trap him. Use the canyon. Maya nodded, understanding immediately. They lured the creatures into the narrowest pass. Then, using ropes and debris from a nearby rock formation, they set a crude trap. Large boulders slid down, crushing some of the skeletal minions and blocking the passage temporarily. Hormka shrieked in fury from above, his shadow stretching across the canyon walls, trying to reach them. Daniel whispered, "This isn't our broken bar, it never will be broken bar, but we've bought ourselves some time." Maya leaned against him, exhausted, sand and blood coating their clothes. "Tie me a broken bar to figure out how to destroy him, a broken bar for good." The desert was silent once more, save for the distant, fading echoes of the undead Pharaoh. But Daniel and Maya knew the truth. Hormka would rise again. And when he did, the nightmare would not just be in the tomb, but it would consume the world. The first light of dawn barely touched the desert, but Daniel and Maya did not notice it. Their eyes were fixed on the horizon, where the shadows of Hormka had vanished into the dunes. For a moment, silence ruled. But it was deceptive yet ominous. Maya shivered. "Danielle, a broken bar, it's not just the tomb anymore. The cursey broken bar, it's spreading." Daniel frowned. Scanning the desert, he saw movement and not human. Shadows slithered across the sand like rivers of black ink, twisting and stretching unnaturally. "They're leaving the tomb," he said grimly. "And they'll reach the town's a broken bar, the village's a broken bar soon." The first signs in civilization. Hours later, they arrived at the small desert town on the outskirts of the cursed region. At first glance, everything seemed normal: dusty streets, sleeping dogs, and shuttered windows. But the silence was wrong. Too heavy, too complete. A child's scream shattered the quiet. Daniel and Maya ran toward it, finding a small boy trapped inside his home, shadows clinging to the walls and floor like living oil. The boy's eyes glowed faint red, mirroring the cursed gaze of the tomb's undead. Maya whispered in horror, "It's infecting people, broken bar, turning theme a broken bar into something else." Daniel grabbed the boy's hand, pulling him free as shadows reached for him. The town square was filled with twisted forms, people partially consumed by the cursey, half skeletal, half shadows, whispering and clawing at the living. The battle in the town. Daniel and Maya fought their way through the streets, using fire, light, and their knowledge of the tomb's magic to repel the corrupted. Each step was a battle against shadows, each breath a struggle against despair. Maya chanted protective spells, her blood fueling fragments of the anchor of the soul she carried with her. Daniel struck at the cursed, swinging rocks, shards, and any makeshift weapon he could find. But for every shadow they destroyed, two more appeared. The town itself seemed alive, a conduit for Hormka's wrath. The revelation. As they fought, Daniel noticed a pattern of the curse radiated outward from the tomb, like fiends spreading through the desert, infecting life and stone alike. He shouted to Maya over the chaos, "We need to go back. We need to seal the tomb completely or this will never stop." Maya's eyes widened. "But the Tamba broken bar, it's impossible to reach now. And he's stronger than ever." Daniel nodded grimly. "I know, a broken bar, but we have no choice. If we don't, the world will fall under Hormka's rule." Above them, the sky darkened unnaturally. Clouds of black sand swirled into spirals, forming shapes that hinted at the Pharaoh himself, his shadow looming over the town. A voice echoed in their minds, "You cannot escape, you broken bar, you cannot stop me, broken bar, the world will be mine." The decision. The town lay in ruins, the cursed scattered across the sand and streets. Daniel and Maya looked at each other. Exhaustion and fear etched on their faces. Maya whispered, "We have to go back, a broken bar, the desert, a broken bar, the tomb, a broken bar, it's the only way." Daniel nodded. "Yes, we have to face him again, a broken bar, and this time, we finish it, or die trying." From the distance, the desert shimmered unnaturally. Shadows writhed like living snakes, moving toward the towns and villages beyond. The curse had awakened, and Hormka's hunger was no longer confined to the tomb. Daniel and Maya turned back toward the dunes, toward the cursed sands, toward the tomb. The war was far from over. Daniel and Maya raced through the desert, sand whipping against their faces. The horizon was no longer empty. Dark shapes moved across the dunes, flowing like rivers of shadow. The towns they had passed earlier were under siege. Smoke and shrieks rose into the dawn sky. Maya's voice trembled. They're attacking a broken bar. The village as a broken bar. People area broken bar turning a broken bar. Danielle scanned the distance. Entire walls of shadows stretched across the sand, crawling toward human settlements. Figures half human, half shadow trampled everything in their path. We have to stop them, Daniel shouted, or this curse spreads beyond the desert. The first village. They reached the nearest village, only to find chaos. Homes burned, livestock slaughtered, and villagers either fleeing or already consumed by the curse. Shadows emerged from the sand, wrapping around victims, twisting them into skeletal forms. Maya shouted a protective incantation. A bright blue barrier of light flared around them, repelling some of the shadows. But the sheer numbers were overwhelming. Danielle swung a shard of obsidian, smashing through cursed creatures. There are too many, he yelled. We can't fight them all. Maya's eyes scanned the horizon. There's only one way. A broken bar back to the tomb. We need to destroy Horumka completely. A broken bar or none of th. The desert becomes a battlefield. The desert itself. Daniel and Maya trudged through the desert, their bodies aching, minds numb from the horrors they had endured. The tomb lay buried beneath the dunes, silent for now. But the desert wind carried whispers too faint to ignore. Maya's voice trembled. Do you feel that? A broken bar? The shadows. A broken bar. They're still here. Daniel paused, scanning the horizon. Shapes moved along the dunes, almost invisible in the dim morning light. They weren't fully solid, more like echoes of the undead, lingering remnants of Horumka's power. They broken bar fragments, Daniel said grimly. Even if he's gone, his curse lingers in this land. The infected caravan. Hours later, they approached a small caravan traveling across the desert. The merchants and travelers seemed normal at first, but then Daniel noticed subtle distortions. One man's eyes glowed faint red, another's shadow twisted unnaturally on the sand. Maya gasped. The cursey broken bar. It spreads beyond the tomb. The broken bar through life itself. As they got closer, the first attacks began. Shadow tendrils shot from the sand, wrapping around the travelers. Daniel and Maya leapt onto action, cutting and chanting spells, trying to save as many as they could. Despite their efforts, some travelers succumbed, transforming into half-skeletal shadows, whispering Horumka's name in agony and rage. The revelation. After repelling the initial wave, Daniel and Maya collapsed on a dune. Their breathing was ragged, their hands shaking. Maya whispered, horrified, it doesn't end. The broken bar even without him. His curse keeps spreading. Daniel nodded, exhaustion etched into his features. It's tied to the desert, to the tomb. The broken bar, to blood spilled and souls taken. We stopped Horumka, but the remnants of these fragments they'll keep haunting the world unless we destroy the source completely. Maya's eyes widened. The tomb. The broken bar. Maybe there's a deeper seal we miss. A broken bar. Something that can end it for good. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then we go back, one last time. If we survive, we destroy every trace of him. A broken bar or the world will never be safe. The desert's warning. As they began the trek back to the tomb, the desert itself seemed alive. Sandstorms of black dust rose in spirals, shapes forming vaguely humanoid, whispering threats. You cannot destroy me. Broken bar. You cannot escape. A broken bar. The desert remembers a broken bar. Maya clutched Daniel's arm. I don't know if I have the strength for this. A broken bar. Daniel's eyes burned with determination. We have to. For every a broken bar for the world. We can't let Horumka's shadow live on. Above them, the sky darkened unnaturally. Clouds swirled like a vortex, lightning flickering red. The curse was far from over, and the final battle loomed closer than ever. Daniel and Maya approached the buried tomb once again, the desert winds howling like banshees around them. The air carried a weight unlike before, thick with ancient power and the lingering echoes of Horumka's rage. Maya whispered, voice trembling, "'Tis a broken bar. This is worse than before. The tomb knows we're coming." Daniel nodded grimly. It's not just the tomb. The broken bar. It's the curse itself. And this time a broken bar. We need to destroy its true heart, whatever that is. The sand shifted violently beneath their feet, forming ridges and pits that seemed alive. Shadows flickered and writhed in the corners of their vision. remnants of the Pharaoh's lingering power. The hidden chamber. They found a narrow fissure in the dune as the sand had parted, almost willingly, revealing a hidden staircase descending into darkness. The air was suffocating, the faint smell of decay overwhelming. Maya's hands trembled as she clutched the anchor of the soul. Whatever's down 3 broken bar, it's the source. The corridor led to a massive underground chamber, far larger than anything they had encountered. In its center was a black crystal pulsating with an eerie crimson light, encased in a web of bones and shadow. Danielle swallowed hard. That a broken bar has to be it, a broken bar, the tomb's true heart. The core of Hormuz's curse. From the shadows, whispers erupted, loud and overwhelming. Destroy USA broken bar, destroy Hema broken bar, join USA broken bar or Dia broken bar. The final battle begins. Hormuz appeared, partially regenerated but tethered to the crystal, his eyes burning like molten gold. Fools! He roared. You think you can end me? This is my eternity. I am the desert. I am death itself. Shadows surged, attacking Daniel and Maya. They moved as one, chanting spells, their blood fueling the anchor. Light erupted from it, clashing violently with the darkness emanating from the crystal. Daniel shouted, Maya, we have to channel everything into the heart. No holding back. Maya's hands glowed, veins pulsing as the anchor's energy converged on the crystal. Hormuz screeched in fury, his body twisting between flesh, bone, and shadow. The sacrifice. The chamber shook violently. The crystal pulsed brighter than ever, feeding Hormuz's regeneration. Maya looked at Daniel, determination in her eyes. If we don't give everything a broken bar, it will never end. Daniel nodded. Then we do it a broken bar together. They pressed their hands fully onto the crystal. Pain shot through them like fire, blood pouring onto the heart of the tomb. Shadows screamed and clawed at them, but the light from the anchor intensified, piercing every corner of darkness. Hormuz's roar was deafening. The crystal cracked, emitting a shockwave that shattered the chamber walls. The shadows convulsed, then dissolved into nothingness. With the final, ear-splitting scream, Hormuz's form shattered completely. The crystal imploded, leaving a deep silence in its wake. The aftermath. Daniel and Maya collapsed, barely conscious. The tomb's corridors began to collapse, but the oppressive presence was gone. The desert was quiet, the wind calm, and for the first time, the sky seemed truly clear. Maya whispered softly, it's a broken bar, finally over. Daniel shook his head, exhausted but relieved. Over a broken bar for now. But some curses leave marks that never fade. We survived, but the desert a broken bar, the tomb a broken bar, Hormuz broken bar, it will haunt us forever. As they emerged into the sunlight, the dunes stretched endlessly, serene yet sinister. Somewhere beneath them, buried deep in the sand, faint echoes of the Pharaoh's rage lingered. But the true heart of the tomb had been destroyed, the curse's source eradicated. For the first time in centuries, Hormuz would not rise again. The desert was quiet, too quiet. Daniel and Maya trudged through the golden dunes, their bodies battered, minds exhausted, yet every instinct screamed that something was still watching. Maya shivered. I thought a broken bar, I thought it was over. But a broken bar, I can feel it. Something's wrong. Danielle scanned the horizon. The sun burned high, yet the shadows seemed unnaturally long, twisting across the sand as if alive. The tomb's heart is destroyed, he said cautiously. But the desert remembers. It holds the echo as broken bar fragments of Hormuz's power. A sudden wind blew, carrying whispers. Not distant this time. They spoke directly into their minds. You cannot escape a broken bar. You cannot run a broken bar. Eternity remembers a broken bar. Maya clutched Daniel's arm, fear in her eyes. It's every weary broken bar, even without him a broken bar. The curse is a broken bar lingering. The last signs. As they walked, the sand beneath their feet began to stir unnaturally. Small skeletal fragments, remnants of Hormuz's undead minions, emerged, half buried, crawling toward them. Shadows flickered at the edges of their vision, twisting into grotesque shapes. Danielle swung a rock at a crawling hand. It dissolved into black dust with a hiss. It's weak, a broken bar, but persistent, he muttered. We have to leave this desert a broken bar far away. But the desert had other plans. The dunes began shifting violently, forming deep crevices that threatened to swallow them whole. Sandstorms rose, carrying screams from the tomb below. The final warning. Maya fell to her knees as a black gust enveloped her. A vision flashed before her eyes. Horum-Ka, fully formed, hovering over a world consumed by shadows. His molten eyes glowed, and the desert stretched into an endless graveyard. "This world a broken bar will remember me," his voice echoed in her mind. "Even in death a broken bar my curse will endure." Daniel grabbed her hand, pulling her up. "We survived him physically a broken bar, but the echo as broken bar, the fragments a broken bar, they're still here. The desert carries them. The tomb's memory is eternal." The choice. As the sun began to set, painting the desert red, Daniel and Maya faced the choice. Keep moving, never stop, or attempt a final ritual to cleanse the land completely, a dangerous act that could either free the world or claim their lives. Maya's eyes met Daniel's. "If we do these a broken bar there's no coming back." Daniel nodded, determination stealing his voice. "We don't have a choice. We ain't these a broken bar tonight, or everything dies slowly, piece by piece." From beneath the sand, faint whispers rose again, sinister and mocking. "You cannot destroy what is eternal, a broken bar. You cannot escape a broken bar." The desert waited, tense and silent, as the survivors prepared for their ultimate confrontation with the lingering power of Horum-Ka. The desert stretched endlessly before Daniel and Maya, blood red under the setting sun. The dunes seemed alive, whispering in voices too ancient to comprehend. Every grain of sand felt like a heartbeat, and every shadow flickered with lingering fragments of Horum-Ka's power. Maya's voice trembled. "Daniel, a broken bar, this is it. There's no turning back." Daniel nodded, holding the anchor of the soul tightly. "Then we end these a broken bar one way or another. Tonight, the desert either dies with Hema or we die trying." Above them, a black storm twisted unnaturally, lightning flashing crimson. The air was thick with whispers, screaming, pleading, mocking. The final ritual. They reached a plateau in the desert, a natural amphitheater of jagged stone, where the sand seemed to funnel downward. Daniel and Maya prepared the final ritual, combining their blood, the anchor, and ancient incantations learned from the tomb. Maya's hands shook as she drew the final sigil in the sand. "He's a broken bar. This has to consume every trace of him," she whispered. The anchor began to glow violently, light blasting outward, making the sand sing with heat and power. Shadows writhed in agony as the ritual pulsed. From the storm above, Horum-Ka's full form emerged, colossal and terrifying. His flesh flickered with shadow and flame, eyes molten gold, wings of darkness spreading across the sky. "You think this can stop me?" he bellowed, voice shaking the desert itself. "I am eternal. I am death. I am the desert, the clash of eternity." Daniel and Maya pressed on, chanting, bleeding, focusing every ounce of their being into the anchor. The light struck Horum-Ka directly, splitting him into fragments of shadow and bone. He roared, the sound like the grinding of mountains, shaking the sand into the sky. The desert convulsed violently. The dunes shifted, splitting open to reveal fragments of tombs, skeletal remains, and rivers of shadow pouring into the void. Maya screamed in defiance, pouring all her life force into the anchor. "Now, Daniel, everything we have." The anchor exploded in a blinding beam of pure light, enveloping Horum-Ka's form completely. Shadows shrieked and dissolved. The desert shook violently as if trying to reject the destruction, the final sacrifice. When the light faded, Daniel and Maya lay on the scorched sand, barely conscious. Around them, the desert was eerily calm. No shadows moved, no whispers, only silence. Maya whispered, weakly, "Is Ida broken bar really over?" Daniel looked at the horizon. The dunes were smooth again, the black storm dissipated, and the sky glowed with the first rays of dawn. For now a broken bar we ended him. But some part of the desert will always remember. Some part of Horum-Ka broken bar will linger, unseen. But the true heart is gone. The cursey broken bar finally broken. From the sand, a faint shimmer appeared like a ripple in reality, but it vanished instantly, leaving nothing but quiet. Daniel held Maya's hand, exhausted but alive. "We survived the broken bar and the world can live." Maya smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. "And that's enough a broken bar for now." The desert was silent. The tomb lay buried beneath the dunes, Horum-Ka's evil sealed forever, or so it seemed. The nightmare had ended, but the memory of terror, the screams, The shadows of they would haunt the survivors forever.